ways that taking time for self-care will improve your life are: number 1, self-care increases effectiveness, productivity, and clarity. When my father was sick with 2 rare forms of cancer, I was the financial breadwinner. My focus was on providing for my family so my father could focus on getting well, my mother could focus on caring for him, and my brother could focus on his studies. I piled on the responsibility and dismissed stress and self-care because I just didn't have the time for it. What I quickly learned is that this was not a sustainable approach. The harder I worked and powered on, the less effective, productive, and clear I was. I finally realized that I had to slow down to speed up. I started building in time for self-care, and I found I was more focused, clear, and productive. For example, I started with the little things I could do consistently every day that didn't take much time or money, such as taking a walk, meditating, taking time out to listen to music, actually eating lunch away from my desk and office, taking advantage of the free massage therapy that my company offered on site, and reaching out to friends and family to connect and unwind. Though I still had the stress of my father's illness, I could better manage it and not have to work so hard to provide for my family. Number 2, self-care is healthcare. My father always said I love to burn the candle at both ends, and though I denied this at first, I grew to realize he was right. But I now say that I love burning the candle at both ends, and I make sure I don't run out of wick and wax. The only way to not run out of wick and wax is to focus on self-care. My father got sick with cancer at the most stressed out time of his life. Once he was diagnosed, my father shifted his focus to self-care. His positive attitude and stress management is why I believe he defied the odds and outlasted the lifespan they predicted for him. But interestingly, it was a cardiologist I heard speak for the Go Red for Women campaign for the American Heart Association that said, "My mother and I were at greater risk of dying from heart disease because of the stress we were under caring for my father than my dad's risk of dying from his rare cancers." I found this hard to believe at first, but thanks to my work with the American Heart Association, I learned that heart disease kills more women and men than all cancers combined, and that stress is the leading cause of heart disease. This is why I was a volunteer speaker for the American Heart Association, to help find the professionals like me that were dismissing stress and self-care, and to help companies realize the cost of stress on their bottom line. This was also my way of reminding me to focus on my emotional, spiritual, and physical self-care for my health care by being intentional about what I eat, think, say, and do. I have come to realize that I control my responses and I am not the mercy of the situations around me. Knowing I'm in control makes it easy for me to step back, slow down, recharge, and power up. This intentional action helps shift my mood to a more positive one and clears my focus, improving my health and replenishing my wick and wax. When I am more focused and clear, I am more decisive, productive, and healthy. Number 3, creative self-care decreases fatigue and brain fog. There is a reason kids have recess. It allows them to burn off negative energy and engage their mind playfully, imaginatively, and creatively. I have found that as adults, we need a recess from our analytical minds. When we take time to engage in creativity, this is a form of self-care for our brains. Brain fog and fatigue are something I currently experience often, especially when I'm spending lots of time in my analytical mind. The best way for me to avoid brain fog and fatigue is to actively and regularly engage in creative self-care. This can be something as simple as dreaming of how I want to redecorate my office, or singing along to my favorite music, or visualizing that I'm at the beach by engaging all of my senses to hear the waves, smell the salty air, see the blue sky and white-capped waves, feel the sand on my bare toes, and taste a fabulous beverage or snack. This not only rests the mind, it resets and rejuvenates it. Number 4, emotional and mental self-care increases empathy and compassion. When I take time to care for my emotional and mental well-being, I am more compassionate and more in tune with my empathy. As an empath, I absorb energy of others. This can be a good thing if I manage what I am absorbing and manage what I'm feeling and saying to myself. Though not everyone is an empath, every leader needs empathy to lead effectively. The only way you can increase your empathy and compassion is to show empathy and compassion to yourself first. This includes paying close attention to your self-talk language and making sure what you say to yourself is something you would say to your best friend. Often it isn't. Since I am a lifelong learner, like most leaders, I allow myself the grace to learn. Learning is hard, and often I find we berate ourselves or place unfair expectations about how fast we should be getting it. So giving yourself the grace to learn is an important act of self-care. I have learned that we can't give what we don't have. So it is important to focus on emotional and mental self-care for ourselves so we can encourage it in those we lead. Not only will you be a better leader, but you will also be a better family member, friend, and citizen to those you interact with. Number 5, Social self-care increases connectedness and improves mental health. Now more than ever, we are feeling disconnected, isolated, lonely, and alone. Social self-care allows us to leave our island of alone and reconnect with colleagues and friends and make new connections too. When we connect with other professionals, we learn we are not alone and that we are not the only ones going through our challenges. We get to engage in relational networking to learn from someone and about someone, boosting our mental health. When I was first diagnosed with an autoimmune and Lyme disease, I immediately reached out to my clients and friends that were dealing with similar diagnoses for guidance. This helped me wrap my mind around what I was facing and quickly create a plan of action instead of staying in a place of despair and overwhelm and saying, okay, now what? A few years into being homebound, the island of alone and isolation became too much to bear. At that time, the global quarantine had just started, so everyone I reached out to was feeling exactly the same way. This is when I decided to launch Down and Dirty Networking to offer professionals a 100% relational networking experience to connect and share ideas and resources in a collaborative environment free from the sales pitches common in traditional networking. In fact, according to Cigna, the COVID-19 pandemic fueled an epidemic of loneliness that continues today. They also found that loneliness and mental health go hand in hand. So it is important we safeguard our mental health by focusing on our social self-care. So to recap, number 1, self-care increases effectiveness, productivity, and clarity. Number 2, self-care is healthcare. Number 3, creative self-care decreases fatigue and brain fog. Number 4, emotional and mental self-care increases empathy and compassion. And number 5, social self-care increases connectedness and improves mental health. I hope this was helpful. Happy self-caregiving, be well, and be stress-free.